It is the best podcast available. You are not trading down no matter how many times the phone rings. Welcome to another show, everybody. I believe this is episode 3. We had 2 in Indianapolis, and this one is from the home office, although Jason Gibbs, the star of Cleveland Browns Daily, is back at the cross-country mortgage campus. I am merely Andrew Siciliano sitting here at the home office. Gibby, it is great to see you. Are you past the Indy hangover?
Yes, although you're putting expectations on me now.
Oh.
Expectations like star power, not star power. I appreciate it, but let's manage the expectations.
Okay,
I like to roll the carpet out for you. You're the play-by-play voice of the Cleveland Browns.
Okay, but and I thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Titles are just titles, but as we record this today, full disclosure, it is the Wednesday after the Combine and before free agency, at least I think today's Wednesday. You did do the show today, CBD, with Bo, because Zagura's on the baby moon, right?
Second one, I think.
You were good for him. As he said, I don't think I'm talking out of school. Hey, man, I'm having a drink for 3. God bless. You were the star of the show today.
I don't know if I was the star of the show today, but there were 3 people in this building that were the stars of the show. And there were a lot of things moving around, a lot of visits going on here today. Some big luminaries on the college football front whose names we might call at the end of April.
Well, let's get to that. Before we wrap up the Combine and look ahead to free agency. And free agency, the negotiation period opens on Monday, the 10th at 4 p.m. Eastern. And then you could actually sign guys at 4 p.m. on Wednesday. This is after the Combine time for your top 30 visits. What does that mean? It does not mean these are the top 30 players on the Browns draft board. There's no such thing as draft board. We will not acknowledge draft board. No, this is 30 visits for all 32 teams. You're allowed to bring 30 players in for official visits in your building. During these visits, you cannot work out. You can do medical, but there's no football activities. Basically, it's dinner, it's handshakes, it's talking to coaches, it's getting on the board, it's touring the facility, it's meeting, it's kind of, as they say, doing the car wash, meeting with everyone, shaking a lot of hands. It is notable that the Browns have 3 guys in the building today that could be that number 2 overall pick. They include Penn State's Abdul Carter, Colorado's Travis Hunter, and his teammate at Colorado, Shedeur Sanders. All of them in the building Wednesday, and we're told, Gibby, they had dinner Tuesday night. What have you seen? What do you know?
I'm aware that they had dinner Tuesday night with the coaches. I heard it was at a steakhouse. Not sure where that is.
Which steakhouse? Marble Room, Red Steakhouse, Fahrenheit.
Could be Marble Room.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, any one of those. I'm not really sure, but they had dinner on Tuesday night, bright and early at the facility Wednesday morning, a little after 8 a.m. You know something's a little different in the off season when you walk down to our cafe, and our cafe staff is unbelievable.
I love
They are great. They take care of you. But in the off season, there aren't as many mouths to feed. So the food is dialed back a little bit. You don't have 14 different options. You only have 5 different options for breakfast. When I walk downstairs and there is a buffet smorgasbord, not just for breakfast, but for lunch as well. And then all of a sudden, the times are changed when the staff can eat and when the staff can be downstairs. You kind of know something's going on, and some other people are in the building. And the guys got in, I think, around 8 a.m. this morning, and been a full day at the cross-country mortgage campus here in Berea.
Now, people might say, well, why are you having 3 players in at once? Why don't you do these one by one by one? Sometimes it's just aligning schedules, especially with these 3 players. They're they're going to be requested by a whole bunch of teams, not just in the top 10. I mean, not to go back to Kevin Costner and draft day, you never know when a trade might happen. So there are going to be plenty of teams that want to have 30 visits from these 3 who are all expected to go in the top 10, if not even the top 5. So sometimes this is just a scheduling thing. sometimes it is strategic, and I'm not speaking in this instance for the Browns. I don't know, but sometimes you bring guys in to see how they interact together, to see who's the loud one at dinner, right? Who's polite to the waiter. So, yeah, they're having them all three in here. Cam Ward this week was in Tennessee as well. Cam Ward will eventually get to Cleveland. They'll eventually have that 30 visit as well.
Might be
Now,
sooner rather than later, my friend.
oh, okay. Gibbe with inside information. You suggesting Cam Ward's going to be in by the end of the week?
I think that might be a possibility.
Okay. Well, stay tuned.
I think you're going to get a lot of the top ones in prior to free agency starting here next week.
Interesting, which is not that big of a deal. You want to get a lot of them over with, and free agency does begin, as mentioned, on the 10th. And it's really hard to do a mock draft until you get through free agency, until you see where the veterans land, especially where the veteran quarterbacks land. There are so many variables, not only here for the Browns, but for other teams as well. By the way, the Browns are allowed, as are the other teams, allowed what we call local visits, meaning players from your city. Denzel Ward, for example, could have been a local visit years ago before he was the 4th overall pick by the Browns in 2018 because he grew up in the Cleveland Burbs. So you could bring those guys in as well. And those are unlimited, as many of those workouts as you can. Those those players can actually work out. And the Browns have 3 schools designated: Ohio State, Akron, and Kent State. Right, those 3 schools you can get unlimited local visits from. So if they want to work out a Buckeye, and we could have 14 Buckeyes drafted, they can actually bring a Buckeye in. So that is to their advantage, certainly, as they have the defending national champions just a couple of hours down the road. Those are the 30 visits. Don't read too much into them. Clearly, all of those guys are in play at number 2. Gibby, we mentioned we're back from the Indianapolis hangover. A lot of it is just kind of taking a breath and trying to process what it was we saw. And I think a big question mark with Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders not throwing is, who is quarterback 3? From the people that I talk to, it's really down to 2 people. It's down to Jackson Dart, and it's down to Tyler Shuck. One of the previous from Ole Miss, the other from 3 different schools, Oregon, and then Texas Tech and Louisville. Shuck is going to be 26 in mid-September. But of the quarterbacks who threw, he probably looked the best. He ran like a 4.64. He was one of only 2 quarterbacks that did run when he ran, and the crowd went wild at a decent time. He really hammed it up with the crowd there in Indianapolis, talking to people that were down on the field. He was kind of the alpha, and that's always what you look for, whether it's the Senior Bowl or any of the All-Star games or at the Combine, like which quarterback kind of stands out as the leader. Now, not all leaders are loud, and he wasn't loud, but he had a swagger to him, partly because he's married. He's an older guy. He played 7 years. I mean, for Pete's sake, he had 2 years with Justin Herbert. One a redshirt year in which he got in for a couple of games, and another year in which he actually played a little bit behind Herbert in mop-up duty. But he played 2 years with Justin Herbert at Oregon, and now Tyler Shuck is going to get drafted in Justin Herbert's 6th year in the NFL.
That's all right. That's all right. Age is just a number. Let's go. Go live. If the guy gives you 4 or 5 great years, and then he's 31, okay. I got 4 or 5 great years. I think he's a good quarterback. I love what he had to say at the Combine. At the podium, I thought he did really well. I think sometimes we think about guys, whether they perform at the Combine or if they choose to sit out. Not sure how much it can help you, but I think that it can hurt you if you don't do well. I'll be interested to see what a lot of these mock drafts coming out have to say about Will Howard going forward, given everything that has gone on with him. He didn't have the greatest Combine, but Shuck, an outstanding effort, and Jackson Dart appears to be the number 3 guy. Now the question becomes, how many quarterbacks go off the board on night 1 in Green Bay?
I'm going to tell you right now, I think it's going to be 3. I think Jackson Dart is that 3rd pick, and I think the question is, where does he go? Is it a quarterback-needy team that just takes him, say, in the middle of the 1st round, or is it a team that, much like in 2018, when the Ravens traded back up to 32 to get the 5th year, which is what you get on a 1st-round contract, is it a team trading back up into the 20s when there's a team willing to get out for more draft picks? Say the Vikings, for example, that only have 3 draft picks, they're going to get a 4th, maybe a 5th, but definitely going to get a 4th pick and a 3rd rounder at that for Kirk Cousins in a couple of weeks. But someone trades back in, I think, and takes Jackson Dart, and I think he's the 3rd. I don't think Tyler Shuck goes in the 1st round because I do think the age and the relative starting inexperience is probably held against him. But I'll guarantee you this: someone's going to take him probably night 2, and Tyler Shuck will start multiple games next year. You could write it down right now.
Ooh, hot take. All right. I like it. I think he's a really solid quarterback, and I think deserves a shot. And I think everybody needs to stop talking about his age. We get it. It is what it is. Can he play? Can he throw the football? Can he make plays? Can he lead a team? It appears that he can do all of those things. Can he do it on the NFL stage? We're going to find out.
Just some quick takeaways here. You are going to see 3 tight ends taken in the 1st round. I think Mason Taylor, the son of Jason, the nephew of Zach Thomas, is going to be that 3rd tight end. Really not a bad thing to say about him. He's athletic. He's a polished pro seemingly already as a rookie out of LSU. I think he is the number 3 tight end. DK Metcalf is in the news today as the Seahawks wide receiver has officially asked for a trade. Seattle also has released the veteran Tyler Lockett, one of my favorite guys in the NFL. If you want to make an athletic comparison in this draft to DK Metcalf, it's a guy named Nick Amenwari, who is a safety from South Carolina. He is basically DK Metcalf playing safety. He and Metcalf are the only guys at the combine in 20-plus years to be 6'3" or higher, to run a sub 4.4 40, and to have an 11-foot broad jump and a 40-inch vertical. He is DK Metcalf playing safety, and while I think there was some question, is the athletic ability always equal to the tape on game day? And maybe he goes in the 2nd. There is no way he gets out of the 1st round. He's likely going middle of the 1st.
6'3" or taller, good speed. I'd like him to play safety for us.
I mean,
that wouldn't be a bad thing. He won't be there.
No, he'll be there at 2. There is no way he is going to be there at 33. And athletically, correct, overall, this combine class is as tall and as fast, 2 things that I am not, as tall and as fast as any group of players at the combine in over 20 years. So whether it's college football weight rooms or strength programs or training tables, whatever it is, or whether it's just the way we as a species have grown bigger and taller and faster and stronger, this is a freakishly athletic group here, as there were 22 sub 4.4 40s collectively at the 2025 NFL Scouting Combine. Now, with all that said, I think there's some big questions at offensive line. Like Will Campbell does have shorter arms. Some people think he's a guard. I can tell you that he played 27 consecutive games, mostly SEC competition, without allowing a sack. I think that means something. But, where do you play him? Is Texas a guard? Is Josh Simmons recovered from the knee injury? What do you think of Josh Connerly? Membo's probably going to be the first offensive tackle off the board. I think maybe ahead of, maybe not problem. It's either him or Will Campbell. But if you're asking, can the Browns just go blue chip O-line at 2? I would almost definitively say right now that answer, regardless of what you think of the quarterbacks, is no.
Yeah, I think you would have to move back. I think you're trading back.
Yeah.
I think that 8 to 12 spot, maybe as high as 6, you can make the argument. The Campbell combine stuff was interesting. It's coming out of the combine, some of these guys just fell, and you and I were talking about it. It's kind of silly season. Maybe it's teams trying to take you away from their guy. Maybe there's something there that is an alarm bell. The Michigan corner, who I thought was one of the
Will Johnson,
probably not one of the top four players, but definitely one of the top 8 overall players. He's now in the teens. We've even seen Shedeur move down into the 20s. I don't see that happening, but Austin Jenney skyrocketed up. I've seen him as high as 6 now to the Raiders, which would be a very Raider thing to do. There's some guys moving all over the board here, but offensive linemen, I mean, I still think you're going to have a run on offensive linemen. I think you're probably going to have 5 offensive linemen go on night one.
And I think you could have as many as 3 running backs go. I don't want to predict night number 1 for the running backs because it is fluid, but I can say this confidently. I think there are 6 legitimate, very good starting running backs in this draft. I think you could see between 8 and 10 eventual starting running backs come out of this draft. Now, what is a starting running back? Is that a guy that is clearly the number 2 when you break camp, but has to take over week 10 when a veteran inevitably gets hurt, and then that rookie puts in a couple of nice performances, and we head into next year's training camp saying that guy is the lead guy? Maybe. But I think there legitimately are 5, 6, 7, as many as 10 starting running backs in this league, in this draft, to beg your pardon. And it's not just Ashton Jeanty at the top. It's North Carolina. It's Iowa. It's Tennessee. You can go down the list here. You are going to be able to find a starting running back at 33 if that's where you want to take him, or with either of the 2 third-round picks that the Browns have. You might not even have to take one in the 3rd round. You might be able to wait. Jerome Ford was a 5th-round pick. Pierre Strong was actually, if you remember, picked ahead of Jerome Ford, picked by the Patriots, but taken ahead of Jerome Ford after Jerome did 2 great years at Cincinnati after starting in a stacked running back room at Alabama, but deciding to leave so that he could get to the Bearcats and actually, show some people what he could do and why he was a blue chip recruit at one point at Alabama. All right, what else am I missing here from the combine? Oh, you want to get to the Shedeur thing? Well, you should talk about the quarterbacks a little bit more.
Yeah, like the guy doesn't perform at the combine. He doesn't throw. He doesn't go through drills or anything. He does his combine press conference. He meets with teams. And what are we doing? Why is he dropping? What's going on? Tell me. You are plugged in from a national perspective. You have lots of friends in high places. Why is a guy like that who, again, didn't do anything? Did he really harm himself in the interview process?
There's a lot to unpack here. Let me offer this first, and I'm going to just push back a little bit. When you say he's dropping, what do you mean?
In a lot of these mock drafts, there are plenty that still have him in the top 3, in the top 6, but now you're seeing a couple that are like, well, it's in the late teens. Maybe it's in the 20s. And maybe there's some clickbaits that don't even have him in the first round, which I'm kind of like, okay, silly season is officially here. That's not going to happen. But the scuttlebutt that maybe he's rubbed some people the wrong way in how he's handled himself in some of these in some of these team meetings at the combine or whatnot. I don't really. Is it that bad that people would drop him the way that they're dropping him down?
This is the time of the year where I always want to caution people, and Gibby, you know this.
Thank you.
Not believe everything you hear and read, and that you have to connect dots where stories are coming from. So I get asked sometimes, and you do as well, hey, would a team or would an agent or would anyone actually put something out there into the ether to try to influence, good or bad, where the player ends up? Yes. The answer is yes. People do it all the time. Would a team that wants to draft a player get into the ether, into the internet, into the Twitters, information, or maybe, hey, I heard that guy didn't do well in the meeting, to have him fall to them? Yes, that is real. That's not the only explanation. there are sometimes other explanations. Look, full disclosure, you and I were there on Friday. We heard Shedeur. I didn't speak to him personally. I didn't, I wasn't part of the car wash he went through afterwards. I've never heard a bad word about him. He has
No.
a quiet, you want to say aloof. I don't think it's a bad thing sometimes. He has a big smile and a confidence to him. He jousted with the media. You and I talked about this on the pod last week. I didn't get a bad impression of him at all. However, it doesn't mean others can't. Not everyone has to like everyone. And yes, I'm sure that there were teams. Now, I have not heard this personally. I want to make it very clear. I am not one of the people writing a column that says, I heard Team X didn't like the kid. I am not that person. I'm not. But I will say that, like, pump the brakes. It is possible that in a room full of human beings meeting with a prospective job applicant or the job applicant, that not everyone in the room liked the job applicant. I mean, that's called human nature. Somebody applies for a job. Okay, meet the hiring committee. You come in, you sit down. There are 10 people on the hiring committee. If 8 of them like the applicant and 2 of them didn't, that sounds like the guy did the job, right? And if the 2 decided to tell their friends, I didn't like the guy, where's the crime? It's human nature. Now, we're sensitive to this, and a lot of people are sensitive to this because over the years there have been tropes and reasons for disliking a player that don't seem fair. I don't know that this is the case, but I do know this. Most importantly, whether it's Bill Musgrave's connection to Deion Sanders and they were teammates with the 49ers, or whether it's Kevin Stefanski's connection with Pat Shurmur, not only friends, but former coworkers together with the Vikings, the Browns will have the information. And more importantly, they have him, Gibby, in the building in which you're sitting right now. And it's about what they think, not about what other people think.
It's going to be fascinating to see here over the next few days. And that leads into legal tampering and free agency. A very busy offseason already in the last 72 hours for the National Football League.
Yeah, let's get something out of the way first here when it comes to legal tampering. Not you, Gibby, but I hate that phrase. There is no such thing as legal tampering. Okay? At 4 o'clock on Monday, so when your favorite talking head show on television talks about legal tampering, just hit mute. They don't know what they're talking about. At 4 p.m. Eastern time on Monday, teams are allowed to negotiate. It is legal. It is kosher. It is encouraged. They just can't officially shake hands on a deal or write their names on a DocuSign. Okay? They can't. Till Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. But it is not legal tampering. You're allowed to negotiate. It's legal. Take the tampering out of it. Now, if a deal gets done Sunday, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, behind the scenes via text message on a burner phone, that is illegal tampering. And for that, there could be sanctions. Also, by the way, who are we fooling? That probably happens because at 1:01 Eastern time on Monday, you will have deals announced. Or 1:04 or 1:08. And to think that in an 8-minute window, Team X and Player Y could work out a deal if they hadn't at least kind of walked through the parameters of what that deal might look like at an Indianapolis coffee shop or steakhouse last week. It's hard to believe they could get that deal done that quickly. But come Monday, it's legal negotiations.
Exactly. And things will move quickly. And this free agency class that we thought, there's some good pieces and there's some good players, but is it one of the better free agent classes that we've seen in the last few years? No, but given all the guys that have been cut or people that are now find themselves in need of a job, this class is quickly moving up the charts. Now, if you're cut, you're allowed to start negotiating. If I'm speaking wrong, let me know. But you're allowed to start negotiating now if you've been cut. You don't have to wait till the noon hour on Monday. You can start now and have a deal done by Monday.
Correct. Although you are absolutely correct, but you need to, and I caution fans, read the fine print on the reporting, because sometimes, one of the insiders will say, hey, the team informs player that he will be released at the start of the new league year to avoid paying a bonus due on the third day of the new league year. And sometimes those transactions are held until Wednesday. But if you're just flat out cut and the team announces it, you are free to go. And the wide receiver class is getting more interesting. Christian Kirk was cut today. DK Metcalf, not a free agent, has at least asked to be traded in Seattle. Gardner Minshew in Vegas. He's been informed that he's going to be released, so there's another quarterback out there. Max Crosby, coincidentally, or not coincidentally, on the same day, at least, is going to get a big new deal worth about 35 APY with the Raiders. Myles Garrett, TJ Watt, certainly look at that. But Gibby, you want to run down here? I got the list of the Browns free agents. You want me to run down it?
Oh, run them down, my friends.
Okay.
There's some names worth watching here.
Okay, so let's do it in alphabetical order. Hakeem Adeniji got hurt last year. I mean, sure, if you liked him last year and he's healthy, you could bring him back as a swing piece on the offensive line. Jordan Akins, yeah, I liked his contributions. Love that he's a former baseball guy.
His best year as a Brown this past year.
Blake Whiteheart had his tender. Browns gave him a tender, so he's going to be back. Jordan Akins, I have no idea. Tony Brown, key special teams guy before he had a foot injury late in the year. Devin Bush, I wouldn't mind back. Jaron Christian, they had to pick him up late in the season again for depth. Don't know that he's going to be back. The big one here is Nick Chubb, obviously. I want Nick Chubb back. Let's say it right now. I want Nick Chubb back. The issue is at what price and in what role. It goes without saying the Browns, with right now their 11 picks, they should be drafting a running back, one that they should expect to contribute next year with Jerome Ford, maybe Pierre Strong as well. Is there room in that backfield for Nick Chubb, and at what price? I know Browns fans are aghast that they would let him hit free agency. It is tough out there for a veteran running back coming back off another major injury. Now, the foot's not a major injury, but you know what I'm saying. I would like him back. It depends on the price, and it depends on the role. And honestly, it depends on what else Nick finds out there. If someone's going to give him 1 year and $10 million, which I highly doubt is going to happen, then the Browns simply can't do that.
Correct. I mean, it's got to be, unfortunately, it's a team-friendly deal. It's not so much a player-friendly deal. And I hope he's back. We'll see if he's part of this first wave of free agents. Free agency comes in waves. If not, with every wave that comes by that doesn't include a Nick Chubb signing, I feel better about him coming back.
Yeah, I would love to have him back, and I think this one is going to be a wait and see. And I don't mean wait and see for a couple of days. I mean wait and see for multiple weeks to see if Nick Chubb is back. Michael Dunn, valuable piece on the offensive line. Don't mind that he's back. Mike Ford, same thing when it comes to special teams. Deontay Foreman, I'd be surprised if he was back. Nick Harris, if he's healthy, would welcome him back. James Hudson, he started a lot of games when needed. He never really established himself as a starter, so to speak. He's a guy that Bill Callahan took under his wing. And remember, he started in college as a defensive tackle. They moved him to offensive tackle. I think he's still a work in progress. I don't know that he's going to go find a starting job elsewhere. Khaleke Hudson, nice special teams player. Mo Hurst would love him back. That's a great Andrew Berry find, by the way, for a former day 2 pick a couple of years ago who had some health issues. Jermaine Ifedi, hey, he played tackle well when they needed him down the stretch. I don't think Elijah Moore is going to be back. James Prochet, I'd be surprised. Jeff Swaim came in and helped out when they needed him. They shut him down last year with a concussion midseason. Then there's Jedrick Wilson and Jameis Winston. Look, we'd all love to have Jameis back. I don't think it's going to happen. I would like to see Jameis go somewhere and at least get a chance to start. I don't know that is going to be in Cleveland. It was fun while it lasted, and I wish Jameis well. I told him in person in New Orleans a couple of weeks ago, Gibby, that I could not be happier for his last couple of months, just how he has taken America by storm and really set himself up whenever he decides to stop playing football for the rest of his post-football life.
Fox should have had him on at the combine last week. Missed
Yeah,
opportunity.
I agree.
Should have kept that ball rolling because Super Bowl week was amazing content.
I agree. And I love the guy. And thank you, Jameis, for everything you did for the team last year. There weren't many happy, joyous, fun, punch your buddy on the shoulder, kind of, hug your neighbor moments this year. Jameis gave us a bunch of those. Jedrick Wills, Gibby, you with me? I'd be surprised if he were back.
I would be too. I know that the Browns have a need at that tackle position, but I don't. It definitely looks like it's trending towards Wills hitting free agency.
Yeah, and that's what it looks like. Winston Reed, Blake Whiteheart, I mentioned,
Love
got
Winston
their
Reed.
tender. Love Winston Reed, another good Andrew Berry find last year at a Weber. Restricted free agents to Anthony Bell. Good story, sure, if you want to bring it back. James Houston was a late in the season acquisition off Detroit's practice squad. Bailey Zappi, enjoyed getting to know him. I think Bailey's going to go somewhere and try to battle for at least a chance to be a number 2. Who knows? Maybe he could surprise somebody in training camp, although odds are stacked against him. But I like Bailey Zappi a lot.
Do we have some news before we sign off? We have any news from the organization?
Yes.
Been a quiet week, but maybe there's a little something out there.
Okay, so you are there at the Cross Country
That's
Mortgage campus. By the time this hits, there should be news that, round of applause, the longest tenured Brown, Joel Bitonio, is not going to retire. And that Joel Bitonio is coming back. It's not over. He ain't leaving. Joel Bitonio, Gibby, I think everyone's happy for this. Joel Bitonio's coming back.
7-time Pro Bowler, 2-time first-team All-Pro, 3-time second-team All-Pro. Will be back for season number 12. Let's go. I love it. I'm happy he's coming back. Joe Thomas told us the longer that this kind of dragged out here, he felt like Joel would eventually be coming near and come back for year number 12. And that is indeed the case. And something to remember, Joel Bitonio, second-round pick number 35 in the 2014 NFL Draft out of Nevada.
Yeah, I believe Zach Martin was in that draft, right? This is going to be live Googling here. Zach Martin
there you go.
Drafted. And so on the day in which Zach Martin holds his, 2014. On the day in which Zach Martin holds his retirement Zoom, if you will, with Cowboys beat writers there in Dallas, is the day that we find out that Joel Bitonio is coming back. Aaron Donald retired last year, same draft class, so that was a pretty darn good draft class. I mean, just among those three in the interior of the line. I think it's good news for the Browns on a number of levels. Number one, he could still play. I think once they figured out whatever was ailing the offensive line the first 6 weeks of the season, we saw Joel Bitonio return to form.
Absolutely.
And I think that speaks well for the prospects of him playing well next season. And as we sit here, by the way, it's official. Joel Bitonio is coming back for a 12th season. The Browns just announced it on the Twitters.
We broke it before him. Let's go. We're 1-0. I don't know.
Hey, no, seriously. And thanks for reminding me we were going to talk about it before we started. We're laying out the calendar here, guys. Again, the 10th, next Monday, free agency window opens. The 12th is when deals could be done. By the time we record this podcast next, we very well may know who the Browns' veteran quarterback is, because they've got to sign or acquire a veteran quarterback. Who will that be? We could have listed names. We could have thrown out Joe Flacco. That's what Adam Schefter mentioned on his pod this week. I mean, I wouldn't mind, right? If you draft a rookie, you tell Joe. It's not going to be like Kirk Cousins from a year ago in Atlanta where they can catch him by surprise when they draft a quarterback in the top 10, right? It wouldn't be like that. You'd have full disclosure and you tell Joe it is what it is. He'd still be the mayor. And I wouldn't mind it. Now, I don't know that for certain. That's just a name Schefter threw out there. But my point being, a week from now, we could know who that Browns veteran QB is.
Schefter threw it out there, which means someone said it. So he doesn't just throw things out there.
That's it. Gibby,
That is
I
it.
appreciate you. Bubba Ventrone, thanks for giving me the idea on this hoodie. I saw Bubba wearing one during the season. I'm like, I like that. I'm going to get one of them too. Thanks for listening and subscribing and telling your friends about this, which is the best podcast available, also known as Andrew Just Rambling. And Gibby looking at his watch going, hey, man, can I beat traffic and go home?
No way. I'm looking at Fila, the birthday boy Jeff, like it's his birth week, like it's a celebration of celebrations.
It's McDaniel's birthday.
Yes, Sunday. Which
this
means it's
coming
the birth
Sunday
week.
Or last Sunday?
This coming Sunday.
Jeff McDaniel, happy 30th birthday again. For Jason Gibbs and the aforementioned Jeff behind door number 3, which is not currently visible on your screen, thanks for listening and watching. This is the best podcast available. Enjoy free agency, everybody.